Hello and welcome. My name is Puneet, and I have a really exciting video series to share with you. We are going to be learning about React.js, and in this module, we are going to be teaching you the ins and out of this web framework and how can you build beautiful user interfaces for your websites, web apps, and even mobile applications. Everyone in industry is keen on learning React, and it is no wonder because even according to the Stack Overflow's latest survey, React.js has been rated the most wanted web framework by professional developers, beating out on Angular, Vue, and a lot of other great frameworks. But what exactly is React anyway? Well, they define on their website as a library for building web and native user interfaces. So it is a front-end framework essentially, and the idea is to make it easier and faster to build beautiful user interfaces such as the ones on Make My Trip for both web and mobile. And yes, you heard it right. React can be used to create native mobile applications for iOS and Android platforms. One of the best things about React is that it makes it so easy to create these repetitive elements, such as the tiles that you see on Make My Trip. Each of these sections have different pieces of information, but each of them individually, such as the view price or log the price tag, these all work very similarly from listing to listing. So if you have a whole bunch of things that you need to render, then you can simply create a single component and customize it with different pieces of data to create an entire user interface like the one Make My Trip has. Effectively, you end up breaking down a very complex user interface structure into a component tree. So, for example, here I have got the entire web app represented as a component. Inside that, I've got a navbar component which can be customized. I've got a to-do list component, and inside that, I've got a list item component. And then I got the checkbox and the item text component, each of which can be reused and customized. So you as a developer end up coding less but creating more beautiful interfaces. And it also vastly simplifies the structure of your website. So if you think back to using Bootstrap, just to create any simple navbar like this, we have to write a whole bunch of HTML like this, and it makes it really hard to organize our code and make sense of what is actually going wrong when things go wrong. Now, in React, however, we have a whole bunch of different components represented each as if they were HTML elements. So effectively, we are creating our own HTML elements, defining the styling, defining the functionality of each of them, in a way, extending HTML vocabulary. And then we can slot them in like HTML components, HTML elements, inside an overall structure, keeping the code of our web app incredibly clean, incredibly reusable, and modular. These are great things for programming clean code and creating apps that scale really well, even when it gets really big and complex. As an analogy, you can think of components as different parts that go into a PC, and depending on what it is that you need, you can change these components and customize these components. Components can be thought of having standard input and output, like every single part of the PC, making them pluggable. I know previously we have tried to keep each of our HTML, CSS, and JavaScript separate. What React does, what it really benefits from, is actually combining small amount of each of these types into a single component so that each component has its own styling, its own functionality, and it controls and you create several of these components to perform different function and have a different appearance. For example, these days when you scroll on any application, only the new components get rendered without the rest of the page visibly updating. This also enables websites to be incredibly interactive. If you think back about old Facebook page and we had these requests, say your friend request, poke request, whatever it may be, you have to refresh the page in order to see the update. But these days, it is all handled through notifications. And we have each component listing for changes with the server and updating itself and its own appearance and data and being able to talk to the server independently. So imagine if every single part of the Facebook website was its own component. Consider each post as a component, then each post will be able to update itself without affecting the rest of the website. And this is really one of the greatest things about the React framework. Now, the other really awesome thing it does is the ability to re-render these changes really efficiently. And it does this by comparing the changes, what we might call diffing. So whenever a change happens, say a new piece of data comes in or the user does something, then it is going to compare the new version of the DOM tree that you want to be rendered with the old version that is already being shown up. And they will do this kind of spot the difference thing. Okay, you're making a change and the input has gone from empty to checked. So this is the only component that I'm going to re-render and obviously is more efficient and will make your web apps be more interactive and work much faster. Now, of course, React is not the only front-end framework out there. So why am I talking about React? Well, even if you look at the Google Trends chart, you can see that React has clearly overtaken Angular and Vue over past 5 years. And we look at Stack Overflow surveys earlier, where the most popular web framework is currently React.js, just below jQuery. That is not all, because React is being used at lots of places where you might want a job, say Airbnb, Uber, Facebook, Netflix, and it is probably one of the fastest growing and most in demand skills out there. In fact, if you look at Indeed and you search for a job for a full stack or a front end engineer, very frequently you will see a requirement for React and Node. Both of these things we cover on Learnobytes. I hope I have gotten you excited to learn this technology. So, without any further ado, let's get started and see what it is all about and get stuck in using React.js.